Okay, this is a demonstration of the muscles of this human plastinated upper limb. I'm going to go over almost all of the muscles. Because it's plastinated, that means you can't see all of the muscles, so you can't like move the muscle and look at it, look at the muscles deep to it. So we're going to start proximally and then move distally. So I'm going to start on the posterior side of the scapula. This is the supraspinatus over the spine. This is the infraspinatus. Both are innervated by the suprascapular nerve. This is teres major, and somewhere in there is teres minor, but it's small, and in this specimen we can only see teres major. These muscles are pretty much covered by the deltoid muscle that inserts onto the deltoid tuberosity that's innervated by the axillary nerve. On the ventral side of the scapula, you see the subscapularis muscle innervated by the upper and lower subscapular nerves. And as I said, here's the deltoid muscle. I'm going to first go over the flexor compartment. Here's the biceps brachii. It has two heads, but in this specimen I can only see one head, so it has two heads. All of the muscle is innervated by the musculocutaneous nerve. Look how it comes and through bicipital aponeurosis kind of covers the flexor compartment of the forearm, and part of the muscle inserts onto the radial tuberosity. Just medially, or kind of around the corner, is the brachialis muscle, also innervated by the musculocutaneous nerve. Posterior compartment of the arm has the triceps muscle. This is the lateral head of the triceps. This is the long head of the triceps, and this might be pieces of the medial head of the triceps. Triceps brachii extends the elbow and is innervated by the radial nerve, as all of the extensors of the forearm and digits. All right, so like I said, we can't see all of the muscles, but I will show you guys what we can see and what we can test on the practical. This is the flexor carpi ulnaris, innervated by the ulnar nerve. And then you can see how deep to this muscle are a couple of layers. These are the tendons of the flexor digitorum superficialis, and then deep to that would be the tendons of the flexor digitorum profundus. And these tendons each send one, this muscle each sends one tendon to each of the digits. So 4 tendons for the flexor digitorum superficialis and 4 for the profundus. Superficialis is innervated by the median nerve. The profundus, which is deep to it, is dually innervated by the median nerve and ulnar nerves. You can see a horizontal muscle here. This is the pronator quadratus, which is the prime pronator of the hand, and it's also innervated by the median nerve. Okay, let's look at the extensor compartment of the forearm, and then we'll look at the hand. On the extensor compartment, you see the brachioradialis here, and even though brachioradialis flexes the forearm, it is located on the extensor compartment, and it's innervated by the radial nerve. These two muscles together are the extensor carpi radialis longus and brevis. Hard to say which one is which. I'm thinking that this one that's a little longer, that is coming from the humerus, is extensor carpi radialis longus, and the one that's a little bit shorter is the extensor carpi radialis brevis. Then you have a group, basically it's one muscle, but it has several tendons that it sends to all of the digits except the thumb. This is the extensor digitorum. Notice that all of these muscles are covered by a thin connective tissue that supports and stabilizes these muscles. This is the extensor retinaculum. All of the extensor muscles of the forearm are innervated by the radial nerve. And the ulnar side would have the extensor carpi ulnaris. Now let's look at the anterior side of the hand. We can see the hypothenar compartment and the thenar compartment and the hypothenar compartment. The thenar compartment has three muscles: flexor pollicis brevis, opponens pollicis, and abductor pollicis brevis. Abductor pollicis brevis is typically on the most lateral side, so it can abduct. The opponens pollicis is typically deep, and then the flexor pollicis brevis is flexing the thumb. All these three muscles are innervated by the recurrent branch of the median nerve. The hypothenar muscles are named similar to the thenar muscles. So you have a flexor digiti minimi, the abductor digiti minimi, and the opponens digiti minimi, all innervated by the ulnar nerve. These tendons are the tendons of the flexor digitorum superficialis, and then also the profundus that actually goes through, and the profundus will insert on the distal phalanges, whereas the superficialis will insert on the middle, on the pips, the proximal interphalangeal joints, whereas the profundus will insert on the dips, or the distal interphalangeal joints. Although you might think this is a deep dissection, it's actually more superficial. So these are the lumbricals and not the palmar interossei. And the lumbricals, just like the flexor digitorum profundus, are dually innervated. The medial two lumbricals are innervated by the ulnar nerve, and the lateral two lumbricals are innervated by the median nerve. On the dorsal side, you can see the extensor digitorum tendon, and then the extensor indici and the extensor digiti minimi. So the index finger and the little finger have two tendons from two different muscles that helps them extend. The index finger has the tendon of the extensor digitorum and the extensor indicis. The little finger, again, has an extensor digitorum and an extensor digiti minimi. And again, all of these muscles are innervated by the radial nerve. One thing I forgot to mention, or maybe a couple of things, are this muscle here. This is the adductor pollicis that adducts the thumb, innervated by the ulnar nerve. And also, we can see two tendons of the anatomical snuff box. This one, the most prominent one, is the extensor pollicis longus, and this is likely the abductor pollicis longus, and then there's one in the middle that we can talk in lecture. So although I don't cover all of the muscles, I just want to show you what we see. So I can't talk about a muscle that we can't see in the specimen.